Hey there, YouTube. What I'm going to do here is give a quick review of my new to me 2009 Triumph Street Triple R with the 675cc engine. I'm going to come from a perspective here as a fz-09 XSR900 Yamaha owner, being that that's what I just sold 2 weeks ago to buy this bike. When I first bought this bike, I was cross-shopping all the naked bikes. That's what I decided I wanted. I was kind of done with sport bikes, but still wanted something fun that you could blast the back road on, but still had all-day comfort. So the one I found was the Yamaha XSR900, which was a cool bike. But after 2 years, decided I want something different and picked up this Street Triple. And so I'm going to compare what I liked about each bike and which one I prefer. Okay, we'll start with the engine. So what everyone goes for. The engine on this is fast. It's got a nice linear torque curve up to about 10,000 RPM where it does rip pretty hard. The Yamaha is far faster. I understand that on paper, it's not that much more horsepower, but the amount more torque is incredible. The Yamaha is just, it's way more fun of a motor. And it's honestly more fun of a motorcycle. If you want to do hooligan stuff, stop right now, get yourself an fz-09, XSR900, MT-09, whatever you want to call it. The Yamaha 900 motor or 850, whatever it is a rocket ship. Does it have the peak horsepower over like a super bike? No, but the torque down low, it's way better than those bikes. And it just makes you do bad things. The reason it made me do bad things is why I decided to sell it. You just wheelied it everywhere you went. This bike is more refined than that. This, I guess, would be more of a gentleman's touring bike, I guess, sport touring bike, as you would call it. Comfort. Let's go a second. After motor, now there is a caveat to the motor, though. The throttle response on the Yamaha is not nearly as good as this. Personally, I'd rather hustle this down a back road with just the throttle mappings on it than I would with the Yamaha. But also might be exacerbated by the amount of torque the Yamaha has. So this bike is a little easier to ride. But motor, all the Yamaha. Comfort. You have more leg room on the Yamaha than this bike. If you're a taller person, Yamaha all the way. Handlebars, everyone's going to say, oh, you're more hunched over. Yes, you are a little more leaned over on the Triumph. That can obviously be changed by handlebars. I had lowered mine on my Yamaha, and they were pretty close as far as the forward lean angle as this. The Yamaha definitely had more leg room. Felt to me, at least on the XRS, that it had a much higher seat, which in turn made the Yamaha, although I think on paper they're within a couple pounds there, the Yamaha feel a little bit heavier. But comfort, all-day comfort, I'd have to give the nod to the Yamaha, although they're very close, very, very close. Looks are subjective. I personally think the fz-09 is nothing great to look at. The XSR900 was kind of very cool and retro-y to look at. This bike, I think, is a little, I don't know. This bike, I think, is a little better looking. I just like the old two headlights design. I even like it a little better than the bug-eyed ones that came out in 2011. So, looks are subjective. I think the Triumph's a little bit prettier, but, that's up to you. Suspension. The suspension on this bike is considerably better than the Yamaha's. The Yamaha did not like rough, bumpy roads, which is what I ride a lot here in northern New Jersey. On a smooth road, it might be different, but on the bumpy roads and really, I don't ride highways. So on all the back roads that I blast around on at, 20 miles an hour over the speed limit on any road I'm on, this is a more composed suspension. It sucks up the bumps a little better. It doesn't jar you as much. It's not softer, but it's just more composed. Suspension's better on this. Brakes, I don't race. All right. They'll say that this bike with the R model has better brakes than the Yamaha. The Yamaha brakes, everyone says, aren't great. On a street ride, they're all good. All right. That said, this had a nice lever feel. Probably a little bit better than the Yamaha, so I'd have to give the nod to the Triumph as far as brakes go. Sound, I can't compare the two. This has stock exhaust. I did not have a stock exhaust on my Yamaha. The Yamaha sounded great. This bike sounds like a sewing machine, but like this doesn't have an exhaust on it. It does sound pretty damn nice when you get it above 8,000 RPM. There's a nice intake growl on this that the Yamaha didn't have, which I think if I get an exhaust on, the two together could be magnificent. But the bigger bike of the Yamaha, I think the motor is going to sound better. They're both triples. Instrumentation, this instrumentation on this bike is far better. You have a clock, you have a gear indicator when you go into gear. I guess I have to start it, but a real tachometer, not a digital one. You know, I wish I had a real speedometer, but you got the little digital speedometer. This bike I just hit 29,000 miles on yesterday, and it runs like a top. That said, I did have to put a stator in it when I bought it, because the stator, apparently this is a known issue, especially with the earlier models. The stators and voltage regulators go, and I wound up having to put in a new stator, which was a very easy job. The stator itself is about an hour. Just be mindful of the wires and how they go when you do it. Voltage regulator was kind of a pain in the ass to get out, as it's right here behind the rear shock. Yeah, and it's a really annoying place to get it out of. There's just no room, but relatively simple. 2 hours, bike was on the road. It's now charging. Surprisingly, there's no low charge light anywhere. The thing's not charging. It doesn't give you volts everywhere. This bike does not have a fuel gauge. The Yamaha did. That is sucky. The other thing is that the Yamaha did have all the safety things that you want. And I will give the nod to the Yamaha on that. This has no ABS, although it does come on later models, and no traction control, no rider control. And they might have came in on the 675 model, but I believe on all the 675s, it only eventually got ABS. The Yamaha did have wheelie control, traction control, ABS, everything you could want. I really wish I had ABS. I never needed it before. If you do, that's when you need it. So do I regret buying this bike? Absolutely not. I personally think it's a way more back road fun bike that I personally can ride at a more comfortable rate of speed than I could on the Yamaha. Is it as fun as the Yamaha? Absolutely not. So if you just want to go out there and do hooligan stuff, do wheelies, just have a blast and, basically just, be a hooligan. Get an fz-09, get an XSR900, get an MT-09, whatever you want to call it. If you want a really good back road carving bike, this is a better bike. It's just more composed. It's just a better bike on a back road. So each have their pros and cons. For the riding I do, I think this is a better bike, but it is not as fun as the Yamaha. I did miss that torque and that power. But I think they are very comparable bikes. They both fit the same niche. You can spend a day on either one and be happy. For how much less this cost me than I sold my Yamaha for, I think this is a no-brainer. Equal bikes, same years, saying they're the same bikes. It's really a toss-up. I'd probably go with the Triumph just because I think it looks a little more exclusive, and I think it's a better-looking bike. Maybe if I drove with the 765, the new one, it'd be a different animal. But, with the 675, this is not as fun, but it is way more composed. So because it's more composed, I feel safer riding at a good clip on this bike. I hope that helps. If you have any comments, any questions, please feel to leave them in the comments, and I'll try to answer anything I can. Thanks. Bye.